Who else gave evidence for the other side?
What was the name of that woman who gave evidence against the doctors?
He gave evidence on a buster case before mine.
Anybody who gave evidence would have that kind of protection?
Alton gave evidence for you.
I found the monster's cave, and I gave you the DNA evidence.
Verne confessed to his crimes and gave irrefutable evidence of his guilt.
The evidence you gave to incriminate my client is...
She just gave you the evidence. He's the one who gave Spikings the evidence on your son.
She gave vital evidence to the...
He gave me the evidence I need to force Ellis to step down.
You are to be remanded in custody.
Court. In the interim, you will be remanded in custody.
Well, you'll be remanded in custody.
Has been remanded into U.S. custody.
Suspect's been remanded into my custody.
Your sworn statement, along with our professional diagnosis, is more than enough for a friendly judge to remand Miss Winters into my custody.
Are all of your patients remanded here by the state?
I'm remanding Ms. Williams into custody.
I'll remand him into your custody now, Doctor.
Remand you to his custody.
Homer Simpson was remanded to the custody of the United States Army.
I remand prisoner number 34667 to my custody.
You shall be remanded into the custody of Hovis, the Threadmaster.
To ask to remand her into custody while she awaits trial.
You will be remanded into custody until your trial.
The prisoner is remanded to the custody of the sheriff. To remand someone into custody for this kind of alleged crime, it's,
Remanded her to the custody of her daughter.
Starfleet remands the prisoner, Jafini, to your custody.
Remand the defendant.
We don't award damages to criminal defendants.
we award damages in the amount of $1.
It was a symbolic gesture and a slap in the face.
We, the jury, award punitive damages of $10,000.
In the case of Bukowski versus Runa, I award full damages to Dennis Bukowski.
Consequently, the county court awarded damages totaling approximately $370.
The federal court found that the designer had engaged in misleading and deceptive conduct. It awarded damages of $25,000 to C. Foley and also granted injunctions restraining her from repeating the allegations.
Like in copyright law, once you're registered with the feds, you have standing to take your case to federal court and maybe be awarded damages. Once
employees, that. So an employer that has 6 or 99 employees, the maximum they can be, awarded damages against them is $50,000.
Jury agreed and awarded damages to Olivia.
In the other 7, the creditors either were awarded damages or won them by default.
But after Sykes' attorney successfully argued that she had developed a bizarre form of post-traumatic stress disorder, she was eventually awarded $50,000 in damages.
Evidence. Zelensky was eventually awarded $1.4 million in damages.
Mr. Alfred Hawkins was awarded £100 damages for his illegal ejection from the meeting. And this
when the International Court of Justice in The Hague awarded Nicaragua $370 million in damages, the U.S. basically did what China is doing now: deny the court's jurisdiction.
Who suffered both. So which person should be awarded more in damages?
At the very least, King was awarded $1,150,000 in damages, but I'm not sure that quite makes up for the needless loss of a limb.
Punitive. The jury awarded Depp $15 million in damages.
2 weeks ago, my constituent Darren Conker was awarded £500,000 in damages for.
Now, initially, Snyder was awarded millions in damages.
£48,000 damages awarded to torture survivor for injuries suffered during deportation attempt.
Have you reached a unanimous verdict?
When the jury returned its unanimous verdict, Pennzoil and Jamail emerged victorious, the winner of the largest jury verdict in history.
In a unanimous verdict today, Mr. Despondent was found not guilty of murder.
Oh no, a jury of my boy Pierce has reached a unanimous verdict.
The verdict of the jury is...
Though nothing could ever be verified beyond reasonable doubt.
And if I was of mind to, I could prove with mathematical certainty and beyond reasonable doubt that you were the one that did it.
Is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Under reasonable doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Did you know, sir? Did you know, sir?
Not at first.
But at some point. And at some point, you learned that your daughter, that my client was the biological father.
And when we present that witness to you, you'll be leaping out of your chair to convict that man beyond a reasonable doubt.
The boy, Walter Collins, was reported as missing March 10th, 1928. On August 18th, we received a cable indicating that a boy matching his description was found in DeKalb, Illinois. She was often cool and aloof and unemotional, because she insisted on being obstinate.
At some point, while all this was going on, Walter Collins was brutally murdered.
Mrs. Collins, the woman he was staying with, wanted him to have these. They're the clothes.
Gentlemen of the jury, I ask you to take a good look at these images. They establish beyond any reasonable doubt the circumstances and the nature of these heinous crimes. They establish beyond any reasonable doubt the circumstances and the nature of these heinous crimes. They establish beyond any reasonable doubt.
I will prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Look, the system specifies the defendant must be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Mayor West's life is on the line here. I'm just saying it's possible he didn't do it.
Beyond a reasonable doubt that this lying, cheating...
That is that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of all 10 counts.
Because until an allegation is proved beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, a man who abandons a long-standing colleague and friend is not only fair weather, but spineless. Beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law...
The law says beyond a reasonable doubt into a moral... I would say that without any doubt he's the killer. The law says beyond a reasonable doubt into a moral certainty.
I think we've established our ineptitude beyond a reasonable doubt.
On the DA to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Assuming he's indicted, which, yeah, it's on the DA to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it wasn't self-defense.
That doesn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you killed them.
The prosecution has failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that
marijuana is not innocuous.
I give you $400,000 more. Okay? Now that's $800,000. With that kind of money, you can buy the Supreme Court.
Tony, the law has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm an expert at raising that doubt. Tony, the law has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Only he could have been cheating on his wife. You know, things would have been so much simpler.
Apparently, I was unable to break up beyond a reasonable doubt.
We got to put your boss in jail, okay?
To do that, we've got to show in court, beyond a reasonable doubt, that this man, a very respectable man in the Hollywood community, is also dealing cocaine. We've got to prove it. To do that, we've got to show in court, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now we're at the ends of the earth to know beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mr. Despondent was released at noon after her lawyer successfully contested the verdict. To contest the verdict. To contest the verdict. To contest the verdict.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe you would consider helping us try to overturn the verdict.
Even then, would we have enough to overturn the verdict?
This, of course, overturns any imagination-based verdicts in the past.
You know what? If anyone can get this verdict overturned, it's him.
The next pope overturned the verdict and outlawed the whole idea of corpse trials. Though let's be real, it kind of shouldn't really need outlawing, right?
The Court of Appeal overturned the verdict on the basis of fresh evidence.
12. While Jaffe was convicted, the verdict was overturned in 1983.
Then that verdict was overturned. She then took her case to the European Court of Human Rights, which ruled against her. And in 2013, she had nowhere left to appeal to.
The Guatemalan Constitutional Court overturned that verdict on a legal technicality, and this case is continuing to wind its way through Guatemalan courts.
Reports that the federal jury convicted Snyder in February 2019 of bribery and federal tax violations, but the bribery verdict was later overturned.
Mike. However, after Perry's lawyers filed a motion to overturn the verdict, the trial court decided it was time to hear it roar. See what I did there? In March, the court threw out the jury's verdict, dismissing the case. And believe it or not, Katy Perry.
Jury do preside over the trial. But again, the commander has the authority to overturn the verdict or the sentencing in that trial if he or she feels that it was not warranted.
God justifies, and no one can overturn the verdict and the jurisdiction of God in heaven.
So in other words, the Schofield Commission found they can't overturn the verdict. They do not have the power to do that. They recommend...
There was no doubt in anybody's mind that justice had been served.
Justice had been served.
Was vitamin...
You need to stop thinking that you're ugly. You are, but stop thinking about it. So
justice had been served.
We've all learned about the horrors of abject poverty.
Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission.
Take abject slavery. The origins are clear.
He was willing to turn a blind eye to the abject horrors in Briarcliff.
The discoloration of the face.
No, she's always been quite a sallow woman.
Trees, soft, sallow ground.
Blonde hair, leather jacket, British accent, kind of sallow, but in a hot way.
He's nice, he's funny, he has the sallow drawn counter.
And now your face is sallow, unattractive, disgusting. A group of men killed him. Justice had been served.
Our reward is that justice has been served.
I think in this case, justice has actually been served.
We want these children to feel justice has been served.
Keep using the salve, gentle exercise, and sea air.
Also, supposedly gentle exercise is great.
Slowly, he started seeing the benefits of gentle exercise. Slowly, he started seeing the benefits of gentle exercise, and he began to enjoy being part of a group with his new teammates.
I will most likely do. Going for a walk. These are the things I will most likely do. Going for a walk. I think this is the most important thing. It's gentle exercise, and exercise is always good.
In many cases, it can be treated through either diet, medication, and a little gentle exercise.
Forget gentle exercise, you need to get hot and sweaty to live longer. Forget gentle exercise, you need to get hot and sweaty to live longer. That's not what we found.
If you consider yourself an active athlete or you are in a wheelchair, it has something to offer to everybody.
It's a very gentle exercise. It's suitable for people of all ages, no matter what physical conditions you may have. It's a very gentle exercise. It's suitable for people of all ages.
Cut down on your to-do list. Give yourself gentle exercise like yoga or
Levels in their obedience, so that was just me going out for a nice little bit of gentle exercise. So, tapping him up.
Woman ought to go on a diet.
It's not you that has to go on a diet, it's me.
Dear, I really must go on a diet.
Brilliant but flawed.
I could get in there. Go on a diet.
Earl tells me to go on a diet.
I think she's gone on a diet. Are you gonna shoot pictures or draw some from memory? Right.
There's no need to go on a diet, just eating the right food.
There's no need to go on a diet, just eating the right food.
This food will help you to build up resistance to disease.
It's not a cure, just a strong antibiotic to build up resistance.
They used to plant the peels in the soil around the vines to build resistance to disease.
The bacteria builds up a resistance.
Whistler says I'm building up a resistance to the serum.
Good, they help build up resistance.
I'm happy to see everyone has made a full recovery.
My Uncle Andy made a full recovery.
Hey, Grandma, what the? Oh, wait, Big, I meant to tell you. Grandma made a full recovery.
Yes, he's made a full recovery, I'm happy.
The vet says he'll make a full recovery.
He'll make a full recovery.
But I'm well aware of the well-documented benefits of gentle exercise in beautiful natural surroundings. So
Marcia Swan's Tabby Cat Spaghetti is on the mend and expected to make a full recovery.
But she's resting comfortably now in Abilene, expected to make a full recovery.
After undergoing an experimental treatment, doctors report that legendary actor Gardner St. James is expected to make a full recovery from his life-threatening condition.
Hi, it says on your website that less than 1% of users may experience an adverse reaction when using the device.
I've had an adverse reaction to the antibiotics.
Or you may have an adverse reaction to the drugs.
Well, anything is.
Or you may have an adverse reaction to the drugs.
Had an adverse reaction.
She may have an adverse reaction to seeing you here.
If this child has got an absolutely streaming cold, they're sneezing over people, you wouldn't want them at school anyway.
Streaming cold for a run, I've got a streaming cold, I can't go out for a run. And that was really hard for me, but I knew.
I've had a streaming cold for days now.
He's in poor health.
Jake was in poor health.
And since he's in poor health, the whole family was concerned.
My niece has been in poor health for years.
I was wondering, you did the Infectious Diseases Fellowship?
Yeah.
Will it affect my application for the Infectious Diseases Fellowship?
Yeah, he got this at an infectious disease conference in Shanghai.
Please report any infectious diseases to the medical officers.
Sir.
Infectious disease. Since when does she have an infectious disease?
Excuse us, avian infectious disease containment.
We've already tested for infectious diseases,
Well, as long as you don't have any other infectious diseases.
And therefore assumed the risk of transmitting an infectious disease.
It's about curing infectious diseases.
However, I am also carrying a highly infectious.
She's still critically ill in hospital.
Faulkner and Baker's popularity is on the rise after a valiant effort to save a critically ill park ranger.
Your wife is critically ill.
Giuseppe Conlon is critically ill, as you may know.
Two crew members critically ill.
Plus two others, one critically.
To save his critically ill wife.
I'm sorry to inform you, the Admiral is critically ill.
Dr. King fell into a coma.
Time you fall into a coma and I...
After my wife fell into a coma, motorcycle crash.
He fell into a coma or something.
But it's still unclear to us when, if ever, he'll come out of the coma he's in.
I don't know. It's like we've come out of the coma.
coming out of the coma, I knew nothing would ever be the same.
You can say the rest when you come out of the coma.
He's never coming out of that coma.
So listen, if Jeff comes out of that coma...
Honestly, people don't come out of comas much.
What if Jeff comes out of that coma?
Reporters, great news. Duke's...
And when Peter comes out of the coma...
Stabilized, but he's not coming out of the coma.
Until he comes out of the coma, if he...
Will she come out of the coma?
People do come out of comas.
He's coming out of a coma.
Okay, what if he doesn't come out of his coma?
Massive heart attack.
Massive heart attack. Right where you're sitting.
The president suffered a massive heart attack.
He's just recovered from a massive heart attack.
Massive heart attack, 35.
Because Abel Crow died last night of a massive heart attack in the St. Francis Hotel.
Had a massive heart attack.
I'll fake a massive heart attack.
Your father suffered a massive heart attack.
Justin Lang, 30, died of a massive heart attack.
The autopsy said it was a massive heart attack.
When I first got here, I had a massive heart attack.
A massive heart attack. I'm sorry for your loss. Now about...
The man had a massive heart attack. I was nothing but professional. One of my roommates had a massive heart attack when she got here.
He suffered a massive heart attack.
I was once his butler, but it was not his untimely death this evening that brought my employment with him to an end.
And then we ship Father Bick off to his untimely death.
You Virgos can expect an untimely death, or perhaps a tragic dismemberment for someone very close to you.
In the event of an untimely death, he wanted me to read his will only to you four.
And due to his untimely death, it is up to you to set it right.
Abated by the untimely death of a known suspect.
They both foresaw their untimely deaths.
Since Mohan's untimely death and Davy's paralysis.
The awful tragedy of Diana's untimely death.
Take a moment to honor the man whose untimely death
is currently being investigated.
I'm getting that Peter's death was very untimely.
Right after the untimely death of Lily's phone.
Saved from an untimely death.
After the king's untimely death. Caused his untimely death. Chuck
his untimely death.
But without the premature death that capitalism brings in the form of inequality, that planet would have flown off its axis long ago.
After the premature death of her husband Dennis to a pulmonary embolism, Deborah was forced to provide for 2-year-old Sarah on her own.
We were all saddened by the young woman's premature death.
So the problem that I'm focused on is premature death, poor life prospects, basic public goods that aren't being improved. Now,
cynical political. Well, partly we have a cynical political culture that reads premature death, Black death, or violence among African Americans within their own communities as evidence of the pathology and a dysfunction that exists within that community.
And so those barriers are dropping, and it's really coming at a very, very important time for public health, because we want to reverse these increases in death, avert premature death.
A meta-analysis of 148 research studies covering over 300,000 participants found that greater social connection was connected to a 50% reduced risk of premature death.
Really, we're talking about the threat and the crisis of non-communicable diseases, from the increase in the risk of premature death being death before the age of 60.
Their body, egg yolk peritonitis, prolapses, and ovarian cancer from hyperactive, rapidly aging reproductive systems are all common conditions and causes of premature death for today's egg-laying hens.
In fact, exercise not only cuts your chance of premature death in half, but it reduces risk for heart disease.
Being a woman of color, intellectual, artist, or activist, a person whose life work is to bridge this killing gap with their art, expression, feeling, connection, play, hastens rather than mitigates premature death.
In 2015, Brigham Young University completed a study that showed a significant increased risk of premature death in those who were living in isolation.
It's like every day you find a new way to push back the frontiers of incompetence.
And push back the frontier of racism. In a common struggle that has brought about our emancipation and pushed back the frontier of racism.
Pushing back the frontiers of science is not without risk.
The Federation has pushed the frontier for centuries.
This was a German invention, really. The idea that the purpose of the university was not the transmission of the body of knowledge that had made up our civilization to the next generation. It was the creation of new knowledge through constant research, pushing back the frontiers of knowledge.
But she was embedded on the front lines, and she was absorbing the dark humor used by these scientists who realized that at the same time that they were pushing back the frontiers, they were also killing patients. But she was embedded on the front lines, and she was absorbing the dark humor used by these scientists who realized that at the same time that they were pushing back the frontiers, they were also killing patients. And the ambivalence that they would feel about asking somebody who was evidently, obviously dying for another set of blood tests to try to push back those frontiers even more.
On one hand, we can probe the deepest secrets of the universe and dramatically push back the frontiers of technology.
short requests for you this morning. Firstly, I hope that you appreciate that a degree from the University of Bristol is a badge of excellence that's recognised across the globe, and because of the quality of our staff. Your lecturers and professors are international experts in their areas of scholarship, pushing back the frontiers of knowledge through their research and deeply committed to their teaching mission.
Well, science is an absolutely phenomenal discipline. It's discovery. It's brand new knowledge, pushing back the frontiers of knowledge that we would not have imagined we would be in. If you look at medicine and science, how it's changed in a very
back the front by bringing whole genome sequencing into the laboratory. FDA, along with its growing numbers of domestic and global partners, is truly pushing back the frontiers of outbreak response.
Research. Such research not only pushes back the frontiers of knowledge, but supports growth in the economy by
Scientists and technologists are pushing back the frontiers of knowledge every day. But things do not always run smoothly.
Harvester is running smoothly.
This will run smoothly.
Since they're the backbone of everything we do here, as long as they're happy, things run smoothly.
No reason why this can't run smoothly.
I think we all understand your frustration, Glenn. But these elections have to run smoothly.
He routinely checks on the houses up here, makes sure things run smoothly.
Because you needed her to keep your life running smoothly?
First of all, I'm happy to inform you that all our plans are running smoothly and on time.
In order to keep the community running smoothly, prisoners must obey the following rules.
Forgive me, I'm so relieved things are running smoothly again.
Do whatever it takes to make sure the operation runs smoothly.
Oh, hey, I remind you, I may not pay rent, but that house runs smoothly.
Point is, I just started, and all of a sudden it's my responsibility to make sure everything runs smoothly while he's off grid.
I'm here to make sure everything runs smoothly until my boss gets here in 3 weeks for the parade.
Power cut. Backup power activated. Because of the power cut?
During yesterday's extended power cuts,
Some kind of power cut.
What about the power cut?
They cut the power.
What do you mean they cut the power?
Sir, actually, Delhi में electricity बहुत जाती है, sir.
Lamps the brightest, except when the power's cut.
Power restored. Power restored.
They want power restored, all tracks cleared, signals green to South Ferry, and no cops anywhere in sight.
Impulse power restored.
Flight power restored. Right, restore power, go ahead. Need to restore power up here.
We have teams of engineers ready to restore power and utilities.
1. At the end of this conversation, you will restore power to the entire sector.
Trying to restore power to several areas in the boroughs.
A power cut may cause machinery to lose power, and production may be halted until power is restored.
Publish some valuable information on the art of science and experimentation.
I've done some research.
I did some research. Flight power restored. Right, restore power, go ahead. Need to restore power up here.
We have teams of engineers ready to restore power and utilities.
1. At the end of this conversation, you will restore power to the entire sector.
Trying to restore power to several areas in the boroughs.
A power cut may cause machinery to lose power, and production may be halted until power is restored.
Publish some valuable information on the art of science and experimentation.
I've done some research.
I did some research.
I did some research.
Oh, do some research.
To do some research.
Do some research.
Great.
I'm doing some research.
I did some research. Coming to the...
Online banking is where the business is heading.
I want cash, and I want it tonight or you're fired.
There is such a thing as online banking, you know.
You have online
I check my online banking at the station. There is loads of money in my... Enter my PIN. It's 788.
Please enter your PIN code now.
If you'd just like to enter your PIN.
Hello, architect. Please enter your 4-digit PIN.
Information. When you walk into your bank, for example, they require not only your ATM card, but a password and photo identification. The same is true with online banking, by the way. Online information. When you walk into your bank, for example, they require not only your ATM card, but a password and photo identification. The same is true with online banking, by the way. Online banking usually requires a username, a password, and most of the time there's two-step identification, which means that you will get a 5-digit code by text or by email, and you have to enter that code to proceed.
And so Iran attacked the 8 largest banks in the United States. And over the course of a 3-week period, caused each of those banks, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America, to have their online banking functions crash.
Advertising campaign, what can we do to encourage more online banking?
So we have the largest population group, and there's huge pent-up demand for owning a home. Are they going to need banking? Regardless of what form you get your banking in, you're going to need banking. It's mostly going to be online banking. But you're going to need to get your online banking from a very strong financial institution that does the things you need them to do. And
a lot of fraud in traditional people banking. So there's a lot of people, not me, other people looking at whether mobile banking and online banking is actually more secure because you take the teller and people out of the equation. It's nothing that we get an answer to today, though. That could give you a really good idea. I'll tell you that I've seen a number of studies recently that are starting to suggest that online banking is more secure than traditional banking. There are less people interactions and causes for fraud in online banking.
We look at how some startups have taken over or how online banking with just the simplest stick-figure business model can take over from huge, gigantic multinationals, take over a lot of market share.
Now, the entire ecosystem is managed and supported through an online banking platform that provides for the safe, authentic transfer of value globally.
I started off basically working on one of their banking systems, kind of like online banking, but for government agencies. And then after that...
No malware, no phishing, no insecurity when you're online banking.
And while some might see this as an unraveling of our social fabric, I say business is good.
Why do you keep looking at your dick?
But I just wanted to say that I had a little health scare. And it turned out to be a real blessing because it's the kind of thing that gives you a new perspective on life. And
making shit happen all the time is a compulsion. It staves off feelings of emptiness. And her company is a part of the unraveling of the social fabric.
And that my government has done irretrievable damage to the country's social fabric. I am the one from a small street in an irrelevant town with a father who could not bequeath me a title.
You've done your part to contribute to the erosion of our entire social fabric.